OTP.py Module. That's the module where we have implementation of classes for working with one-time passwords. So what we have one abstract class called OTP Handler, which defines the method which your subclasses should provide. Basically, there are two: GeneratorTP to create a new one-time password for the user and memorize it on the server side somewhere. The application which requests it gets an OTP ID, which later on will be passed to validate OTP method. So we pass in the ID which was provided and the code which was entered by user. And if everything is okay, then validate OTP method returns a new session, basically provides an access token which will be then used for connecting to adapter, connecting to BSS. And if it's not correct, then it just raises errors and returns one of these 401 or 404 error codes. And here we have a more advanced class which handles most of the things for you, called sample OTP handler. So what it does, it actually takes care about generating OTPs, storing them somewhere, doing all the validation about expiration or too many failed attempts. So the only thing which you would need still to implement in your subclass, well, you will need probably a function to extract user email. So when we have information about a user from your proprietary database in your format, we don't know what it is, and we don't know in which field email is stored. So here we try to make some guessing, but you're better off creating a proper function to extract exactly the required field. And then, of course, well, we need to send an actual email. It can be done by connecting via SMTP to your mail server. It can be done by using one of those email platforms such as SendGrid or Sendinblue, or there are many other ways, but basically this is something which you have to decide for yourself, which is right for you, and implement it. Okay, and we'll just take a look at the contents of the generate OTP and verify OTP methods in here, just in case if you need to adjust something. So for OTP generation, we have two parameters, OTP length and OTP validity. Also, potentially, you can override them. So generate OTP, it tries to retrieve user info. Here, obviously, it realize that this object, where everything is going to be incorporated, is derived not only from this OTP class, but also from your BSS adapter external DB class. So that method is available. So once we get the user information, it tries to extract email. Well, if email is not there, then we cannot do anything, just raise an error. Otherwise, we take care about it. The OTP one-time password should not be too short. Generate random code. This is convenient for testing while you're debugging, so you don't have to open your email client every time. You can configure environment variable and have OTP code set to always be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or whatever you want. Good for debugging, just make sure you don't set it on for production. Okay, so then we randomly generate an OTP ID. Right, set OTP validity to by default 15 minutes, but you can override it in your subclass. Object is created. We store it in the database, and this OTP DB is an object of the subclass of tied key value. Right, so you will provide, you will either use what we provide or you will implement your own class which actually does the storage in the database of your choice. Then we get sender email. This is to present to the user when the user sees in the app OTP has been sent. It's nice to tell him or her to search in their inbox for email from specific email address, because otherwise it may get into spam. It's easier for them to find it. So we call the function to send the actual email. If it fails, well, obviously we return an error. Otherwise, we return this OTP create response with OTP ID. And then user receives that email and enters the code. And now validate OTP method is called. So we extract OTP ID. And this function just to deal with automatically generated classes. Sometimes we have this, if you can see, it has this dot root attribute, which is, this doesn't look nice, so we're using this function save to extract scalar value from this field. We retrieve information about the OTP from the database. If there's nothing, well, obviously we return 404 because this OTP ID is not valid at all. We verify that this OTP hasn't expired yet. If it did, well, we remove it to save up space in the database and return error code that OTP expired. If then the correct code doesn't equal to the code which was entered by the user. If we see the number of attempts that user already attempted to do these things incorrectly. If it is more than our maximum threshold, then we are actually going to remove that code from the database and return 429 code. This is done to prevent some way of people to do brute force. Otherwise, we just increase the number of attempts and save it in the database, right? And this is this if so, and then we return error invalid OTP. And if everything is okay, we create a new session. We store that session in the database. We also remove that OTP from the database so people cannot, some evil hacker will not be able to see some of your old email and then try to log in with it and create a new session. That's also, as you can see, in order to use it, you just need to override a few functions, and we're going to do that when we are creating our 3CX adapter.